Hello, everyone. Welcome to the August 4th super special monthly edition of our CHAOSS weekly meetings. It's a very exciting one. I'm a blueberry today. Apologies. Everyone else looks pretty normal, but I don't know why I'm purple. Anyway, moving along. If you have not put your name in the attendee list, please feel free to do so. Oh, thank you, Matt, for sharing the minutes in the chat. Always on top of things. Yeah, I hope everyone's doing okay today, Tuesday of the week. We still have a lot to do this week, I'm sure. So hopefully you're all getting some stuff done. The first item on the agenda was anything from last week. Let's look down here to see if we got anything we need to wrap up.
Yeah, I kind of added stuff because there was an evolution question I wanted to cover, and I may not have followed the ordinary format. So if there's confusion in the agenda, it is entirely my doing.
Thanks a lot, Sean, for messing up the flow.
Never happened before, but.
All right, well, we'll just move along then to the working group questions. And if there's stuff that comes up along the way, that's totally fine. So the first one on here says Zoom, we need to either do waiting room or password. And Georg's asking if there's been an issue. Has there been an issue?
No, but there's going to be a change that's coming from UNO.
So I would like to use this opportunity to suggest that we get our own CHAOSS channel, because I often wait for someone from UNO to show up to record them, and I think it's too much to put on one small part of the organization to have the ability to turn that stuff on. And I think it would also eliminate that need for a waiting room.
I'm totally fine with that. I mean, we had just used UNO because it was there early on. We just kind of stuck with it. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I completely, it totally makes sense. But I mean, universities are getting kind of super ridiculous about what they're wanting us to do with Zoom security, and I don't want it to impede our working groups. Because now I would normally not be able to record if somebody from UNO isn't there, but then I wouldn't even be able to start the meeting.
Unless we did passwords. But
oh right, yeah, I suppose, yeah. With the passwords, I suppose that wouldn't let me record if we use the password.
No, it'd be the same problem. Everybody would just need to type CHAOSS1 or whatever before they joined, which we would have to post somewhere anyway.
You can also just put the password in the link.
Okay.
Isn't there a way to claim the permissions if we created the password? I've seen the feature, I've just never actually tried using it.
I've never been able to claim it without the secret code, and I believe that's Matt's secret code that he's not allowed to give out. If your university runs like mine.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Can we get something from the Linux Foundation where we can share the host keys among some of the meeting leaders?
We could. I had a chat. It was just a phone call with Brian Warner, whether or not the Linux Foundation provides this kind of service. I didn't get the impression they did. So do you know otherwise?
I mean, I know there are several Linux Foundation calls that happen on Zoom channels. I've never taken the time to notice where those Zoom channels come from.
I know the CNCF, I think they provide Zoom for a lot of their projects, but I'm not sure. I'd be surprised if the Linux Foundation didn't have some kind of
an enterprise Zoom thing.
Looking at Zoom plans online, it looks like it costs about $20 a month if CHAOSS were to pay for it itself.
That's totally reasonable to me.
How would we get that set up? Like, would that be you, Matt, to set it up, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do it. I wouldn't mind moving off the university Zoom anyway, just personally. Okay. Do you want to do
Probably
that?
worth double checking with someone other than Brian just to make sure that the Linux Foundation doesn't provide that.
I will. How about this? How about this? I'll double check. And if I kind of really do get a definitive sense that it's not something that they provide to their projects, then I can go ahead and just register us. Figure out how to get that.
Kate Stewart hosts a couple calls I participate in that uses a Zoom link, and I should know whether it's a LF Zoom link or not, but of course I don't. It's just because it's just some number, it doesn't indicate whether it's LF or what.
I'll check.
Yeah.
I don't want to overcomplicate things, but if we are talking about changing our Zoom plan, I guess I'll be the one to bring up the question of should we stay with Zoom or should we explore an alternative platform?
I would vote for not changing anything right now, but if there's an alternative platform that's infinitely better, I'm open to it.
I'm on the same page as Sean. I don't see a need to change. None of the others work any better than Zoom.
Sounds like Jörg's looked into it.
I end up on calls on a bunch of different platforms, especially some of the open source ones, and I think Zoom is probably more reliable than any of the other ones I've been on.
I agree.
So Sean, yes, I also end up on a different calls because I talk to many different companies who cannot use Zoom sometimes.
Right.
And Zoom still has the best experience in my opinion.
Yeah. Don't make me do blue jeans. That's all I'm going to say.
Or GoToMeeting or WebEx or no.
Yeah,
you said that there are some individuals who can't use Zoom. So are we, by using Zoom, are we excluding individuals or?
My experience is they usually just pull it up on their phone.
Okay.
They just can't use it within their firewall, their company.
I mean, I've come across people who have a kind of a philosophical opposition to Zoom and will only use open source platforms.
A few people are mentioning.
With OpenStack,
Oh, sorry.
we were. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I just wanted to say that we were exploring Jitsi Meet. That's an open source video conference platform, and it works quite stable for us, I think. We were running half of our project teams gathering on it, for instance, and I think you can configure it pretty well when it comes to different bandwidth levels that people have available these days. So I think it's something that could be interesting to look into if we would want to switch to something else than Zoom.
Yeah, if it was a priority, I use the Jitsi service that's free online every week for the opensource.com community, and it's a little inconsistent, to be fair, if you're using their servers. If you want to run it yourself, it's pretty rock solid technology, but that involves infrastructure that I personally don't want to manage, and is a little out of scope of what we might be doing here. But I echo everything she just said. I was part of we did like a multi-week review for an article I dropped in chat if people want to explore the open source alternatives. The very short version is Zoom is the path of least resistance that I prefer pretty heavily.
Thank you, Kevin, for at least bringing it up and making sure we're all on the same page.
So what do we decide? Just stick with Zoom,
I think
or
so.
do we want to try?
Yep.
Okay.
I think at this point, yeah. And if we want to look at alternate platforms, we can kind of do that later. I have a little bit of an urgency with the university. They just dropped this on me and I only have like 2 weeks to
We could also just test Jitsi with like some of our smaller meetings if we wanted, like Matt and Sean and myself. Like we have that weekly meeting that where we touch base. We could maybe try it there or something. I don't know if we wanted to kind of dip our toe in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I vote for sticking with Zoom. I've not had great experiences with Jitsi. I mean, I love that
haven't
it's an
either.
open source platform. I would love to be able to use it, but I have seen it be all kinds of flaky. On the hosted one, the free one. Sorry.
I actually agree. I've used it several times in the last few months, and the experience is not great.
For the record, I actually prefer Zoom as well. I just thought it should probably be brought up if we were making the switch.
All right, executive decisions are being made left and right. Okay, and so just to recap, Matt's going to check with the LF. If we don't have access to Zoom through that, he's just going to get us our own CHAOSS channel. Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is signing off on the release metrics. So Kevin, before he can push everything to officially released on the website, needs to get all working groups to sign off on the metrics that are up for release, meaning that they have addressed all the comments and questions and concerns that people have brought up during the public review session. So if we have people from those working groups on the call today that want to offer that would be great. If not, please get that together sometime ASAP to Kevin, just to say, yeah, we chatted about it, we're good. Or if you know you're good already, then let us know right now.
I think the best way to signal that you're signing off on it would probably be to respond to the release issues and close those issues. So if I go to the repo and all of your release issues are closed, then I know we're good.
Does anyone have any questions about that for Kevin?
I think this value is the only group I think that doesn't meet this. I know value does not meet this week, so that closure will have to just occur. Like,
we'll have to async it.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that was kind of floating had to do with SCMS annotations that Sean has a PR in for. But I guess this is the nudge on the thread that we have, that if there's anything we need to do, update the thread, and I'll aim to merge it end of day at the latest.
Cool. And evolution's the same. They don't meet this week. They meet next week.
Yeah, I was gonna say, okay, I'm glad you said that, because I was like, I thought we met last week.
And that is an awesome segue into the next agenda item. Thank you, Matt. Speaking of evolution, Sean, do you want to chat about this,
Yeah,
this entry here?
yes, I do. So you can see under sign off, nope, that's not it. Sorry, something just popped up on my screen. So we're trying to come up with a list of, so there's like, when you're trying to create metrics, there are conceptual, logical, and physical similarities. And a lot of what we do is map physical differences to a logically common metric. And as we've discussed Garrett, we are, and I think Armstrong is the one in the group that has the most experience working with Garrett. And he was going to reach out to some folks he knows with experience working with Garrett. Conceptually, what I don't know, because I haven't used Garrett much, is a pull request or the code merge request concept in Garrett the same thing as a pull request in the other platforms that we look at? So that's question one. So in other words, should we be trying to incorporate Garrett into our pull request metrics, or does it not fit?
Well, I think it's sort of a complex question. It's Ildiko, by the way, in terms of it can be the same category if you look at it from the perspective of you're proposing a change that eventually you will like to see get merged onto the branch where you're proposing it to.
Right.
But if you look into the details how pull requests work compared to how Gerrit review works, it's pretty much comparing apples to oranges, in my opinion. They are both round, but practically that's about it. Yeah, and they are both fruit,
Yeah.
and then that's about it.
Yeah.
Because with the pull request, whenever you want to update it, you always create a new commit, and then you basically build a chain of commits in a pull request.
Right.
In Gerrit, you always have a new patch set, which is a new version of the same commit. So when you merge it, then you will have that one commit that had a history. So the concept of how it works is completely different. So in that sense,
Is the history of these patches, are they reflected in as commits in a database, or is there some other? No. Okay.
No, you're practically editing the same commit. So you're amending a commit as opposed to creating a new one.
Okay. So
you have a commit that contains a change, and you upload it for review in Gerrit. Oh man, I joined from my phone because I had some data issues. Anyway, I can potentially rejoin from my laptop and share the screen and show how it looks like, and then it may help understanding it better.
I think
If we have time for that, or I can do it at another meeting if there's more time for that there. I don't want to hijack this whole call. Just trying to explain how it works, and I'm not sure that just explaining it by words is helpful enough.
Is it possible, are you able to participate in the evolution meeting a week from Wednesday, or Thursday rather? It would be
You mean next Wednesday?
Yes. I think it's Thursday though. Well, I'm getting all my meetings mixed
Nope,
up.
it's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday. It is
Yeah,
Wednesday. Yeah.
I wanted to join last week, but I have an ongoing call at the exact same time. And last week, the topic that they were discussing, I couldn't miss that one. But I think next week, I'm probably able to skip that meeting and join the evolution working group call if that works. I also got the some of the questions from Armstrong, just didn't get the time to reply to his email yet, but probably good idea if I both reply and join the call, so more people get the ideas and we can discuss it, because I don't know everything either, but I have some experience with both. And I have much more experience with Gerrit than GitHub and pull requests. So I have that. Yeah.
That would be great. I think the question that comes into my mind as you think about it is, if I compare a pull request metric from a Gerrit repo and a pull request metric from a GitLab repo, is that comparison helpful? And if not, at the face of it, are there things we can do in terms of the way we interpret Gerrit repositories and tooling that would make it more helpful? So consider that question as you ponder over the next 9 days or 8 days.
Okay.
8 days if I keep. And then I have one more question for the whole group, which is, I've listed Gerrit, GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket as we think about the evolution metrics. These are the ones historically that we've looked at. Are there other Git repositories that are used enough in open source or predominantly in open source that we should be thinking about as we develop evolution metrics? And if you can't think of any right now, feel free to share them as an issue with the group. I don't want to miss. We don't want to miss really important and widely used platforms. I don't think we have, but my view of the world is only mine. Did I lose the call?
No,
No,
we're all thinking
Okay,
so
all right.
hard about your
Yeah.
question.
Okay, all right.
So
Okay.
hard.
We're pensively considering. Yeah, I guess I'll say it sure sounds like the heavy majority, and I think you built it in an extensible way where if other platforms with similar concepts come up, you'd be able to integrate them.
Yeah, for sure. It's the
So-
ones without, I want to make sure, especially not to miss ones that have slightly distinct characteristics that we need to account for.
Okay, so if anyone thinks of anything, we can talk about that next week maybe,
Pretty
or
much. Yes.
come to the evolution meeting or something.
And I was just looking at a list of some others. I haven't even heard of most of them. So, like a list of Git platforms or Git services.
What did you all decide about Jira? Are you doing anything with that or any of the other kind of ticketing platforms?
So we looked into Jira, and I guess one question we have is, it looks like Jira, I mean, I'm not fully aware of the history of Jira. I know Apache historically used Jira for version control. It is now entirely on GitHub, or at least all of the 10 or so repos I checked appear. Apache has a very strong presence on GitHub. They're not mirrors. It's where the work is happening. And the only reference I can find to Jira when I search the internet is to an Atlassian commercial product. So I guess, does anyone know of an open source version of Jira that's being actively used by an open source community for version control of the software using Git?
I don't think that Jira is open source, but historically Atlassian has provided it for free to open source projects. I don't know if they
Yeah.
still do that, but I don't know that I've ever really come across Jira being used for version control, more of an issue tracker. We use it at VMware, but we use it for issue tracking. I don't know that we use it for version control. We use it with our GitLab internal instance.
For issue tracking.
For issue tracking, yeah.
Yeah.
Issue tracking and feature planning is what I've seen it used for. I've never seen it used for version control. Does it do that?
There were some claims that on the call that it did at one point. And it did at Apache specifically at one point.
Yeah, I messed around with that at one company it's something to do with like a piece that was rolled in and then out of Bitbucket as Bitbucket tried to survive. But I haven't heard of any projects, and I see a lot of new and less known open source projects on a regular basis through opensource.com, and nothing popped up recently there. Nothing that is comprehensive, but yeah, just
No.
one take.
I think for the most part, we've just simply done the things that everybody knows, and it seemed to have good coverage, but I want to make sure we're not there's not like a big hole that we somehow omitted. With this group, I would have been surprised, but I had to ask.
Okay, good. It sounds like you got your answer.
So. Did.
And I got my answer because I asked the question. All right, so do we have updates from the risk group?
Yes, so far the updates since the last meeting, we have some metrics from continuing release that are going to be released here in the release. We also are working on refining a list of commonly used tags. So we've, for issues, in order to try to identify from the risk perspective, our interest is in identifying tags, which are of course freeform text, that correspond with bugs, defects, issues, in order to try to estimate how long it takes those kinds of issues to be resolved by the project. And so we've mined tens or not hundreds of thousands of issue-oriented tags that exist across, I think, 13,000 projects at this point. And the first cut was to just look at the most commonly used tags and identify those that indicated a bug or some kind of risk to the stability of the software. In the second pass, what we've done is laid that across the number of repositories using any one individual tag. So if there's a very widely used tag on a giant project, it might skew towards the top 100. And all we've done is sort of done this cross check, and that's the analysis we're doing. I think that's noteworthy for the community as a shared data resource. I think the other metrics that we're working on continue to be developed, I think increasingly in concert with other Linux groups or projects who are focused on safety critical systems and real-time systems.
Awesome. Does anyone have questions for Sean on those updates? All right. Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Who wants to talk about the D&I working group and what updates are going on there?
I mean, I can do it.
Really?
So yeah, so a couple things, right? Of like every other working group, the aim has been to put closure to the metrics as part of this metrics release. So that's been really great in that regard. For the next 6 months, I think there's some discussion about documentation work that needs to be kind of worked out a little bit. So one of the metrics that we had was kind of overloaded, and it's been broken down into 3 different metrics. So that's cool. And then I'll just talk about the badging. Does anybody else want to update on metrics? The badging program has been coming along really nicely. So again, Asta and Matt Snell have been doing great work, and they're going to be doing a second pilot here soon. I think honestly, the biggest issue, and if anybody has thoughts on this, feel free to speak up. But so the biggest issue is right now, you're all familiar with the badging program, or at least the concept of the badging program, say that an event would apply for a badge based on, at the moment, 5 event metrics. So if the event, is attentive to some number of those metrics, they get a gold badge. If they're attentive to some smaller number, they get a silver badge. If they're attentive to some smaller number, they get you get the idea, right? So the challenge is as the metrics continue to grow in the D&I working group, if the number of event metrics goes from 5 to 7, and from 7 to 11, and then from 11 to 14, over time, right? How do we continue to think about gold, silver, and bronze badging based on this increasing number of metrics associated with an event? Does that make sense? So the current proposal is to not have it be a fixed number of metrics, but to have it be a percentage of metrics. So say anything above 70%, if you attend to 70% of the metrics, then you can receive a gold badge. If you attend to 50 to 70%, you receive a silver badge, 30 to 50%, something along those lines. So the number always does increase, but it's not an absolute number. So thoughts on that would be much appreciated, or feedback on that.
That's how I viewed the badge from the beginning, that
Okay.
we cannot measure the metrics themselves, but we can say you're attending to the metrics that we have.
Okay. As a percentage, not as a number.
Yeah.
And our thought was to lower that percentage just a little bit, right? So a gold badge isn't 100% adherence to the metrics, because as has been brought up, some of the metrics are probably just not attainable by certain events, or they're just not even within scope for certain events, right? They just may not be applicable, even though they're great metrics and they're things that certain events should attend to, they just don't necessarily apply. So this would give an opportunity to events to kind of, think about the metrics that are applicable and then pursue those. So, okay.
One modification we can think about, and I don't know if we want to do this, but if we have a metric or two that we think is an absolute must, then we just make that a requirement for the badge.
I see what
but
you're
then
saying.
we can still use the percentage.
I see what you're saying. So you have to have a code of conduct, for example, like an absolute must. Can't leave that one off. Okay, no, that's a good idea. We hadn't talked about that. Thanks.
Anyone else have feedback or questions for Matt on that? Or you're also welcome to join the D&I working group meeting, which happens on Thursdays, I believe. I think those are those every week? Or are those every other week?
They're on Wednesday and they're every week.
Okay. I need more coffee. I do actually go to those, so you would think I would know, but there's just so many. I don't know.
That's
I
okay.
lose track. Okay. Okay, so let's move along to value. Matt B, do you want to talk about that?
Sure, happy to. We had a heck of a good time getting to the latest release. The big thing we're celebrating is we've got a pretty solid set of focus areas that you can explore in here. If you're interested in any of them, have metrics that come to mind, please start joining on Thursdays every other week. So social value is something that we don't currently have any metrics around. So it's of interest to us next to start asking people that work on software related to social value in particular and capture how they then assess that it's meeting that objective. And then organizational value, we have some individual and communal are all out there already. Next topics on our mind, we came across a language, right now it's not defined and we're using it quite frequently. So we're realizing it's maybe a necessary step to look at it from holistically across CHAOSS that differentiates these kind of discrete, individual, and atomic, as we're using terms for like simple metrics. Simple is even another word to throw into it, but like these things that can then be built up into more complex metrics where like you have, commits as a simple one, or PRs, like a tally of PRs as that. And then you can get to percentages of PRs merged from people outside the organization is a combination of multiple metrics that you're capturing and putting together. So that language keeps coming up around value in particular because we're trying to synthesize different individual pieces into something of value. And we're bumping up against that. We don't have to dive all the way into what that means and solve that today, but if that's a question that is coming up in your working groups, if you could email, message, thumbs up, let me know so that we can find if other people are running into that conversation and want to continue it with us. And beyond that, we've got a few new metrics that were put into issues and kind of standardized into a format for review. And now that we're done with this cycle, we'll start reviewing those. And yeah, we're having a lot of fun doing it. So join us. Questions, thoughts?
So I do want to just bring something up that came up with the social currency metric system. There was, so there was something really, really great came out of this. So as Matt was pointing out, right, a lot of our metrics are these kind of atomic or granular metrics. They're kind of low level. In the value working group, the social currency metric system was kind of a metric that was different from the rest. So it was really a collection of a lot of these atomic metrics that had methodologies and practices associated with it. What we decided, it wasn't a value group, wasn't it? Did we decide this?
I recall the discussion from the value group.
So what's going to happen is for this round of the metrics release, the social currency metric system is going to stay as a metric as part of the release that's happening this week. But then over the course of the next 6 months, we're going to actually dig into kind of from the work that Sean had done to try to enumerate what those atomic metrics are and develop the atomic metrics, the 8 or so atomic metrics that really comprise the social currency metric system, and define those in the value working group. We're then going to move the social currency metric system out as a metric. So it will no longer be a metric, it will be a collection of metrics. And so the metrics, the atomic metrics will be in the value working group, but the social currency metric system will not. I'm going to stop there for a second because there's more to this story. So that's one of the things that's happening. What came out of that discussion was that we actually, maybe unbeknownst or kind of formally thought about, is that we're going to move the social currency metric system out as a program, or is that what we called it? A program?
Yeah, a program is the word we use, but we're not wedded to it.
No. So as a program, and this program is a way to think about how you can bring together CHAOSS metrics to have an impact in the world, right? And so the social currency metric system will essentially, I think Georgi used the word upgraded, or that it moves out of just being a metric, because it really is a collection of many atomic metrics, but being a program that brings together metrics, that has methodologies, that has practices associated with it. And in that call, we realized that we have 2 other programs in the CHAOSS project. One of those programs is the D&I badging program, which is really the same thing. It's about bringing together atomic metrics in a way that's meaningful to have an impact in the world. And also the community health reports, which is bringing together atomic metrics in a way that's meaningful to help communities get a better understanding of their own health. So really, what also came out of this discussion was that we'd like to start promoting the programs or projects that we have in the CHAOSS project that can help people gain a better understanding of health in ways that's relevant to them, whether it's around D&I badging, whether it's the production of community health reports, or if it's around social currency, right? So it was pretty cool that came out of this. We've been talking to Kevin as to how we might display this on the webpage, right? Start saying, here are some programs that you can take a look at or participate in. So anyway, that was what also came out of this, which I was pretty happy about.
Sorry, can I add an angle? Sorry, I jump in, I say one word, I disappear for 5 meetings. Sorry about that.
You're very welcome here.
Thanks. So every time I look at the CHAOSS metrics, and I know it's open source centric or software centric, there is fundamentally a framework and a set of tools that are used to measure something, be it in open source or software. That something still applies in any collaboration. Online collaboration may be more of the pivot point, but any form of community and collaboration where people get together, organize, and do something. And so I would love to see, as the program evolves, that it kind of also tries to see what can be used outside of open source, because that direction would mean that CHAOSS would definitely make a new trend in collaboration, metric-based collaboration, as a global concept, not a localized concept to open source. Yeah, that's it.
Cool, thanks.
Anyone else have comments about this kind of idea that we're formalizing? Questions? Awesome. All right, well, let's roll right along then. If someone does want to participate in future conversations about this kind of programmatical thinking, is there a way that we can do that? What would you suggest, Matt, Sean, whoever? Maybe just here at this meeting?
Yeah,
the
maybe
CHAOSS
so.
mailing list.
Yeah, or the mailing list would be good.
And two of the programs seem to have a working group home. SCMS seems to reside in Value, so could easily be talked about there. Obviously, DNI badging has a home in the DNI working group. Evolution. The community reports are a little bit different, so maybe those would be best discussed here.
Okay. Sounds perfect. All right, let's roll along to software updates. Georg, do you want to give us a quick update on what's going on with Grimoire Lab?
Nope, I don't have any update.
I thought you meant no, you didn't want to do it. That's fine too. You can always say no. I hate to put people on the spot, so I'm very sorry. That's why I'm like, whoever wants to jump in, feel free, because I don't know. I was always that person that hated that in school to get called on. Like, no.
I'm just not involved in the development side of things, and without the community calls right now, I don't know what's going on.
No worries. Augur, anything there?
A couple repositories that we've released to the CHAOSS organization. One is Augie, which is our Slack bot notifier. The other is the Augur SPDX, which is the DoSox, we call it the subsequent DoSox thing that takes Augur and makes all of the licensing risk information available inside of Augur using a DoSox software strategy. That's in addition to the Augur community reports we released last week. We welcome contributions, and we've also started making updates to an Augur Medium channel, and have a form on our website for requesting an Augur instance, which I will make work. There's some WordPress thing that I'm not smart enough to figure out. So once I get that figured out, I'll publicize that more widely.
Thank you, Sean.
Sure.
And one other quick update around both of those programs or projects, excuse me, is that we are going to participate in Grace Hopper's Open Source Day. So Sean and myself and who's the person from Grimoire Lab? Santiago, I think. Santi, yeah. So we will be mentoring, well, Sean and Santi will be mentoring volunteers on their open source day through Grace Hopper. So just an FYI, if you have questions about that, that doesn't happen until September. So just to let everyone know that's happening. Program updates, we kind of discussed this already. I don't think there was anything else to add to that. Is there? Anyone? Nope. Okay. We have only 2 minutes left, and I should have put mentorship in the first one because they always get at the bottom, and I hate that. So if there are students on here that want to add their updates to the agenda or give us a quick rundown on what's going on, that would be awesome.
Yeah, okay, so so far for translation, I've been able to work on implementing translation using 4 different platforms. So, okay, I'm just going to share. So, I think, should I share my screen?
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
We might have more time next week too. I had sent you a chat.
Do we want to hold on to this until next week? To give Tola enough time to really go through it. It's really interesting stuff. I read through your report, Tola. It was great. So that would be awesome. Is that okay with you to do it next week where you have some time?
Yeah, it's fine. Next week. Okay.
Can I suggest we put it at the top of the agenda for next week?
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was super interesting. I did read through that. And there's the link if you want to look through it before next week, anyone.
Yeah, and the goal,
Yeah.
Tola was gonna, we had chatted with Tola, was to show how the translation service can work in practice. So how we could actually go about doing translations, particularly in GitHub repos.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So Tola, you'll be first next week.
Okay. It's fine. Yeah.
And then Venu also dropped in an update, it looks like. Venu, do you have anything to add to that real quick?
No, I just have a very small update that I was working on the GitLab study, and that's it. There are no much results from that. So I'll be speaking next week if possible.
Yeah, we'll put both of you first next week for
Yeah,
sure.
sure. Thanks.
All right, I think that's it. Does anybody have any final comments or questions, anything to bring up real quick?
I just wanted to congratulate all of our Google Summer of Code and Outreach students for passing the next milestone.
Fantastic job.
Thanks.
All right, well, I guess we can wrap this up. Everyone have a great rest of your week, and thanks so much for coming to our super special monthly edition. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank